Yeah, I mean, not to get off topic, but
that's all we do.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. Eisner approved, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. It gets hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Dal.
Dal.
W. Dal Bush.
Right. Where were we?
I don't know. Where
we were talking about ComicsPRO stuff,
Oh,
Dal,
let's talk
but
about
we were
ComicsPRO.
early and not a lot had happened.
Yeah.
And now, thinking over the fact that it has happened, the Comics Professional Retail Organization annual meetup
Distributors.
was in Glendale, California last weekend. And truth be told, I think we've only been to ever one annual meeting.
For ComicsPRO?
Yeah. There have been retailer meetups where we were at things at C2E2.
Yeah, I mean, there's Diamond Summits.
Right, but
that
there
we
was
did, but
the
yeah.
actual physical...
Was that ComicsPRO or was that a Diamond thing?
Which one?
The one that we went to. The one that
The
was
one
like
in
Memphis.
That was ComicsPRO.
Was it ComicsPRO?
We would not have driven 8 hours each way for a Diamond retailer
I think we
summit.
briefly thought about it at one point, and then we were just like, forget it. Because
Also-
Diamond was doing one semi-local, like in the Midwest or something.
There will never be one of those again.
No.
Yeah.
I don't even think there's going to be much like lunar breakfasts that we would normally
Well, okay,
go in their
so
stead.
without getting too far off topic, so
late.
Lunar does a different theme for conventions every year. So one year was breakfasts, one year was after parties.
Mhm.
So they will do things for each major convention that they're going to be at, and I assume they'll do some at C2E2,
Yeah.
but it won't be a breakfast because they did that already.
Okay.
So I would expect there to be a lunar thing at some point.
Probably.
It can't be Friday night this year because we're busy.
Sure.
And
We have a riot to attend
yeah,
in the Windy City.
there's been a riot down on Main Street tonight. But talking with retailers and reading things coming out of the ComicsPRO Annual Meeting, and I was a virtual attendee, so I would watch along to publisher presentations at...
As long as they were
meetings and
broadcast
things.
on the internet.
Exactly. Certain publishers will not have their presentations broadcast. Fine, it's their prerogative. And my feeling was if it was broadcastable, we could talk about it. Also, if it has been up in the comics journalism press already.
Yeah, I was
it's
mostly
fine.
going to look at articles that were posted to the Beat because Heidi, I think, was in attendance.
Heidi was there, yes.
And so she
In
was
fact,
posting a lot of for public consumption stuff.
At one point, one of the blocks of programming, the camera was kind of focused on her table,
Oh, neat.
like the journalist table.
Okay.
It was weird until it would like go up to the people
Sure.
talking. And all of the retailers said this was the best one ever, how beneficial it was, how you missed out if you didn't go.
That's the thing that honestly
And-
has come out of most of the ComicsPRO events, at least for like the last, 6 to 8 years that I can recall, where almost every person who attended would evangelize about it afterwards.
Yeah. And a lot of it is, as Dal had mentioned last time, the meetups and the schmoozing and the talking with people.
Mhm.
And the basic structure of the event is for each major meal, there's a bunch of presentations from publishers.
Yeah, which is honestly similar to how Diamond and Lunar would do it.
Yeah, but just more.
Yeah, while you're eating, here's the people who paid money for the food that you're eating, and now they're going to get to talk to a captive audience
Yeah.
about their upcoming projects.
And in between those meals, you have either classes where they do like a bunch of rounds of classes, and the classes are repeated so you could get to some, like if you miss one, a morning session, because I'll have 3 or 4 classes at a time.
Yeah, it's
I
like
think
programming
3.
tracks basically where you could go in and depending on what your store is about and the things that are more interesting to you, you could maybe watch a presentation on,
Social media marketing,
or shipping or
how to
game space or
how to build out your store on a budget.
or local promotions.
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So like when we did
Building a kids section.
Yeah, when we did ComicsPRO, we chose the ones that were more relevant to our business and ignored the ones that we wouldn't get much out of.
Yeah,
like
and,
again,
and we split up.
anything about like games, we were just like, forget it. Like that's going to be hugely beneficial to stores that have an active gaming presence. That's not us. We just sell this stuff at like the checkout lane, so it doesn't really matter how we market it and what we do with it.
Right. And we split up, so I would go to one, you'd go to another, so we'd cover as much as we could.
Yeah, we take notes and then share what we learned.
And then for in between the other meals, there's
like basically lunch. Lunch would usually be something where there would be round tables, where literally like the ComicsPRO we went to, there would be kind of a meal room, a little like dining area, and it would be full of literally round tables with about like 8 to 10 seats. And stationed at each of those tables is somebody who is assigned, like, you have to kind of present something to the group.
Yeah, and that was mainly, that was not what I was going for, but
Okay.
That was usually ComicsPRO staff who were like, hey, you got to have a topic.
Right. If you're on the board or you're part of the organization,
Right.
the expectation is like, you need to have a little something to talk to with people.
When I was on the board, it was like, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, what now?
Yeah.
But no, what I was going to say was between lunch and dinner, there's what the actual round tables are, is where the distributors or publishers or whomever who paid to get this time sit at a round table, and for like 10 minutes, it's basically internet, or not internet, speed dating, for people that want you to stock their product. So retailers go to your table, you'll have like, 8 retailers, and you give your pitch, and then after 10 minutes, they go to the next table, and you give your pitch, and you're giving the same pitch over and over and over.
Right.
But it's to anybody that paid money to be there. So it's a crapshoot between major publishers or people that have like a new knickknack they want your store to carry.
Right. So like I remember, one of them we had was Dynamite, and Dynamite was there kind of talking about their stuff. And then the next one would literally be like, we're a poster distributor.
Yeah.
And like, you can carry our posters, and these are the kind of posters we offer, and here's a catalog, and here's our sales terms.
Yeah. Or, the Grim Fairy Tales people being like,
right.
Carry our books. Here's a specific bundle we've created for ComicsPRO retailers.
Yeah, or BCW or whoever. Like, it could be anything.
Or a charitable organization, like, hey, we give comics to hospitals and things like that. So that's basically, and then in the evening, there's vendor-sponsored parties. Distillery had one. Bad Idea had, not Distillery, excuse me. Ignition had one. Bad Idea had one.
Yeah.
Competing parties at different points.
When we went to ComicsPRO, it was a mixture of like publisher reps that would kind of take a group of people out to dinner, to a local restaurant.
Yeah.
It would be organized parties where there would be something like at the hotel or like in a conference room sort of space. And sometimes it was seriously just, here's my room number. A bunch of us are going to be hanging out and having drinks. Come up and hang out.
Yeah.
Drop in, drop out.
Yeah. When we were in Memphis, and granted, this one was in Glendale, California, which is basically Los Angeles.
Right.
So a lot of publishers were there. A lot of celebrities were there. When we were in Memphis, we bailed on one dinner just to go to
Jerry Lawler's.
Well, no, but to go to Bourbon Street. We were in Memphis. You want to go to the touristy thing.
Sure.
And we did eat at one of Jerry Lawler's 2 restaurants, and
Which was terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my God. If you dig up that podcast from like 8 years ago, you will listen to what is like a description of one of the worst dine out experiences I've ever had in my life.
But it had a pretty great Jerry Lawler shrine.
It did.
In it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we weren't at his barbecue place. We were at like his American restaurant.
Right.
So we were all told after the fact that, no, you went to the bad one. There was a good one.
No shit, we went to the bad one.
And apparently that one meal we missed, I was like, God, the food was so good tonight.
Yep.
All right, fine. Anyway, which we're not talking about Memphis. We're just our experience
using that to calibrate what we know about ComicsPRO.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to be completely pragmatic about this.
Uh-huh. Because you're not on the board anymore.
I'm not on the board.
You can speak your mind.
I don't necessarily feel like I would be evangelizing it as everybody else would were I there. And for all the retailers that talk about all the great things they did, so many of the photos they posted were just the what I would call the tourist photos. Here's us and Patton Oswalt.
Right.
Here's us with the giant Warhammer mech or whatever. Here's like here's me and Brian Posehn.
The things that I kind of vaguely recall from years past when people would post about ComicsPRO after the event, it was always kind of platitudes. It was always like, this re-energized me. This, showed me that there's a future in the industry.
It's great.
But that's not the sort of stuff that I necessarily need or care about. Like, I'm doing this. There's no version of this where I'm like, well, comics sucks. This is boring. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, no, man, I'm doing this. This is what I do for a living. And it's what I've done for a living. And it's what I'm going to keep doing for a living indefinitely. I don't need to go to ComicsPRO to talk to other retailers to feel like, I found my joy again or whatever. It sparked something in me. So that element of it would be completely wasted on me. The things I would go for.
Denigrating that in any way. Like,
I'm just talking about
it's
me.
Amazing.
This is a me
that
thing.
Feel rejuvenated by this.
But for me, the things I'd be going for are honestly the things you can just get at home. Like, the things I want are, what are the publishers doing? And it's like, they're going to communicate that to all of their people, regardless of if you went to ComicsPRO or not. Like, you can get a one-on-one with people. If you want to really talk the ear off of like a PRH rep or a Lunar rep or a DC rep or whoever, you can do that at ComicsPRO, and that can be valuable if you have very specific concerns. But if what you want is kind of a roadmap of what the industry is going to look like for the rest of the year, that shit is not going to be hard to find. You do not need to go to Glendale, California to find out what Oni sales terms are going to be.
Yeah.
Like, they will email that out to you.
Those press releases hit almost the same time that their presentations hit.
Yeah, and again, that's the stuff I find more valuable. And you can probably get a little bit of a peek into the crystal ball through some stuff. Hanging out with different publishers or different distributors will give you a little bit more insight than what is commercially available. But to me, that's not worth all the other stuff that would bore me, that I would be like, I'm seriously sitting here while this publisher is just showing me like a slideshow of their pages from previews. I don't need this.
Now, we do feel that organizations such as ComicsPRO are valuable and have their place in the industry.
Sure, advocacy, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. One voice that represents many voices is something for publishers, distributors to listen to.
For sure.
And there's a lot of retailers that I consider our friends that it would be nice to have seen.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about our place in comics retail.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, if you look at the number of either Zoom calls or just phone calls I've had with publisher reps at the end of last year and the start of this year, just going over, a year-end wrap-up or like looking forward to the next year or discussing plans and projects. And the fact that we know people behind the scenes who value our input is pretty great.
Well, your input, but sure. Yes.
We're not challengers input. They're looking for challengers input.
I'm just kidding.
And we may not be one of the most well-known stores within the retailer community.
No, but also I don't care about that.
Right, because that doesn't help our bottom line. It's like winning the Eisner, which is a thing that I wanted so bad.
Yes.
And I'm so glad we have it. It's never really elevated our...
It didn't make us any money.
Right. I mean, it's elevated our stature. It hasn't elevated our bank account.
Yeah, I mean, I can point to a number of things that legitimately brought us business, and it's not the Eisner Award.
But I'm still super stoked that we have it.
It's mostly doing social media stuff with wrestlers.
It's one of my proudest accomplishments that we were recognized to that capacity.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the building's on fire, I'm going to say that Eisner Award.
Yeah.
But I would also never say that it was transformative for our business.
Yeah, when
it was nice to have
we were going out for it. Eric Thornton from Chicago Comics offered to sell us theirs because it didn't mean anything to them.
It's a nice bit of recognition, but it's not like a Michelin star where it's like you are going to get more business overnight because of this. Right. People are going to come from other parts of the world because you are on their radar now. And it's like, I don't know that this means that much. Again, like the people who have come in to Challengers that have specifically said why they did it, like tourists, people from out of town, it's largely, if not entirely, because of like, oh, I heard about you on a podcast, or oh, I heard Patrick on David Harper's podcast, or I saw you on some wrestler social media or whatever. And it's like, that's it. Like, that's the stuff that matters. Winning an industry award, I don't know that most people know what an Eisner Award even is or why it matters.
Yeah, I mean, we have 5 Diamond Best Practice Awards. They look great on the wall. They're really nicely made awards.
They're really well designed.
But they're nothing that the general consumer knows what they are or cares about.
We won Best New Gallery, and then we shut the gallery down like 18 months later.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember getting from the Best New Gallery Award is an angry phone call from a different gallery who accused us of not being a new gallery because the store itself had been open for a number of years, even though the gallery had only been open for a year.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Oh, goodness.
Uh-huh.
And, sometimes there's a lot of high-profile retailers who are very vocal in the industry.
Sure.
And I am not somebody who is frequently, and you're not in this conversation at all, but I'm not somebody who's always on the comics retail messenger boards.
Right.
I'm in several of them, and it's all just Facebook groups is what it is.
Sure.
I'm in several of them.
Comics retailers are old.
And I mention, I chime up when I have something to say. The few times that I've needed something and I've reached out to a group, crickets.
Yeah.
But there's some retailers who are on it all day long.
They have to be in every conversation.
And
I know people like that in other parts of my life. And it's just like, I do
why
not
are
have...
you looking at me right now?
What the... I don't have the energy for that. I don't have... Like, there's no part of my brain that's like, I've got to be a part of every conversation or I will somehow cease to exist.
We were part of and again, I say we, but this was to Dow's chagrin, part of a DC Comics video call yesterday with Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb for Hush 2.
It was definitely on around me.
Right. But it started at noon on a Wednesday.
Which is
so
psychotic.
All we could do was have it playing in the background because we're busy.
Yeah.
And
noon on a Wednesday.
That's why I'm never fully logged into retailer groups during the day because I'm working.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I get it. Like a lot of the more established stores maybe have staff that does everything.
Yeah. You might have the buyer for the chain or the, a higher up management person who's not on the sales floor being the one who's watching this, getting all the information and then disseminating it down to their staff. To which I would say, what information? Not to segue or even to change gears. I found the Batman Hush 2 Zoom call to be enormously unnecessary. A lot of it is just, I can't even conceive of what I would consider valuable information at this point from a publisher like that. Like, I don't honestly give a shit as a retailer why Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee are telling this story, what they hope to get out of it, whatever. Like, that shit is academic. Like, that's for fans to get psyched about it. As a retailer, how are you going to make it easy for me to carry this, and who do you think is going to come in for it? But even the second thing, their expectation of this, boy, I'm really interested to see what happens in about 4 weeks, because what they think this is going to be and what I think this is going to be are highly divergent concepts.
Miles apart.
They are completely different scales. So, yeah, like just before we started recording, DC sent out their weekly promotional email to retailers about FOC and all the other stuff. So it won't shock you to learn that there is a big section at the beginning about the first part of Hush 2, huh-toosh. And they're doing a Tuesday night release event for it. Did you see this?
No.
Okay, so did you see this email?
No.
I'm going to read you out what's in there, Patrick. It's a million things.
While you pull it up, I'm just going to say a few things that I learned from the call. That Hush 2 is 6 issues, and it closes out this Batman series.
Right.
When Hush 2 or huh-toosh,
which I think they'd already mentioned at the ComicsPRO event.
But when it's over, and they relaunch Batman #1 in September with Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez, when Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb get to the back half of this Hush story, which will then be called Hush 3, it will be inserted in that new series.
Yeah.
So at that point, I wonder...
Does it have to end in an 8 as well? Is that how it works?
Maybe. But are they taking a Fraction and Jimenez taking a break? Or is it a short run for them? I don't imagine it's a short run for the amount of publicity and story behind this.
Yeah, I would expect... Well, one, we don't know when Hush 3 is coming out.
Next year.
Sure, why not?
I did get to read a preview of the first issue of Hush 2, and even though it's on FOC right now, it was in black and white because I don't think it's colored yet.
No, in fact, that's the one that they're still making available to retailers, is the black and white uncolored copy. So first let's talk about the fact that, Patrick, I'm going to need you to count these on your fingers.
Okay.
Main cover by Jim Lee, Scott Williams, Alex Sinclair.
1.
Open to order connecting variant cover by Jim Lee, Scott Williams, Alex Sinclair.
2.
Open to order connecting variant cover by Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair. This is a different one.
3.
Open to order variant cover by J. Scott Campbell.
4.
Open to order variant cover by Dan Mora.
5.
1 in 25 variant cover by Lee Bermejo.
6.
1 in 50 variant cover by Simone DeMio.
7.
1 in 100 variant cover by Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair.
8.
1 in 250 variant cover by Jim Lee.
9.
Open to order foil variant cover by Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair.
10.
Open to order blank sketch variant cover.
11.
Open to order courtside variant cover by Tony Daniel.
What? 12.
Open to order connecting variant cover by Gabriel Delotto.
13.
1 in 608 variant cover by Jim Lee and Scott Williams, signed by Jim Lee.
14.
1 in 608 variant cover by Jim Lee and Scott Williams, signed by Jeff Loeb.
15.
1 in 1000 variant cover by Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair, signed by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee.
16.
Open to order showcase variant cover by Sean Murphy and Simon Go.
17.
And then, just announced today, I think at least announced today, Batman 158 launch party. Participating stores can start selling Batman 158 at 6:08 p.m. local time on Tuesday, March 25th. As a special bonus for fans participating in the launch party, DC offers a 159 ash can, previewing the second chapter. Additionally, stores that order at least one 25-count bundle of the ash can for issue 159 qualified order the Batman 158 launch party glow-in-the-dark variant cover.
Was that 18? I lost count.
Oh, Patrick, you're supposed to be counting on your fingers.
I don't have 18 fingers, Dal. I have 10.
158 launch party glow-in-the-dark variant cover.
Do you know how many toes David Tennant has?
Is it not an even number?
It is an odd number.
Oh my god. 9?
11.
No, that's worse. It's worse to have
He has an
more.
extra toe
Oh no.
on one foot.
Goddamn Califranes.
Apparently, if you look close enough,
I'd rather not.
it was visible in the bi-generation scene because he'd lost the socks.
I thought that was just an effect. They're also
I thought
releasing
that was a sonic screwdriver.
a Batman 158 giant size version, 11 by
19.
17. That'll be, it also has a foil.
I think I missed a Glow in the Dark one, maybe?
Yeah,
Or maybe
maybe.
at 19 or 20?
Also, the giant size special
Has a
edition
foil.
has a foil version as well.
Yeah.
This thing's got 20 different covers across at least 2 different variations in format. That's insane. That's like, is Dynamite releasing this?
I mean, I was going to make that joke, but I
This
held
is like issue 4 of a Dynamite series.
Yeah.
20 covers. You and I have talked about this internally. I don't know if we've talked about it as much on the podcast, but why don't we do it now? I don't know who the audience is for the Hush 2. Old people, I guess. People who remember reading Hush 20 years ago.
So let me tell you the most beneficial thing I had heard about huh-toosh
Mhm.
came from Mitchell Davies, All-Star Comics.
Okay.
They emailed all of their Absolute Batman subscribers and said, hey,
Hush 2.
Hush 2, and they got a huge response.
Interesting.
Because the lapsed people that would come back for the idea of a Absolute Batman
Mhm.
would also be into Hush 2.
But that's the thing is, I don't think a lot of our absolute people are lapsed Batman people.
Sure.
What we see, at least what I've seen a lot of, is people who don't read any other comics.
Yeah.
Like, they genuinely heard about Absolute as a line through social media, through YouTube, through streamers, and they were like, I gotta read this thing. And they did, and that's the stuff they read. They'll try out other stuff, but they don't have, like, the sort of institutional memory that I think you need for Hush 2 to pay off. Like, I
Now,
don't...
you heard Jeff Loeb say you do not have to have read Hush 1, which they're calling it now because it was just called Hush.
For sure. And that's what I would kind of counter that with is, but the people who haven't read Hush 1 don't know who you are or care. Like, you and I might at least, even if we're not fans of the property or excited about the potential follow-up, are at least aware of the idea that Hush was a seismic event when it was first
Yes.
coming out. And we have sold copies of Hush at whatever store we've worked at for 20 years. Not rapidly, but like it has sold
Yes,
consistently.
but for all these Absolute Batman people who would sign up for huh-toosh, you could sell them the compact Hush.
And you honestly could. And there maybe is an audience that will see Hush 2 and be like, what is Hush 1? And you can sell them that and they'll buy Hush 1 and then they'll buy the comics. But that to me is a huge leap, that there are people out there who are willing to drop collectively $15 to $30, depending on what format of Hush they buy, out of pure curiosity.
Yeah.
Because it just looks cool. And it's like, when Batman Spawn came out, that was supposed to be a thing of like, holy shit, Todd McFarlane, Greg Capullo, Batman Spawn, and it's like most people didn't care. It did okay. It did
Yeah, I was
well.
going to say, and you know what? How did that say, like, we ordered really heavy. How did the book sell for us? Fine.
It sold fine. It wasn't, 300, 400 copies. It wasn't huge. It was okay. And like,
it wasn't a Godzilla vs. Chicago.
No. Which, regardless of how many times we reorder, I'm sure we're going to feel like we underordered. I mean, we probably literally could have ordered 500 copies of that thing and would be sold out by the end of the year.
But here's why we couldn't have done the store exclusive cover. Because it's already an $8 book.
Right.
And we would have to charge $16?
Oh, yeah.
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 Like if we could have done an exclusive cover for regular price.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. But
you have to charge double for those things to make your money back.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and it was a crazy buy-in.
Yeah, I mean, not to get off topic, but
that's all we do.
The problem of the math with an exclusive cover like that is you can do it at cover price if you think you can sell all of them. If you can't sell, like, if you're ordering 1,000 copies of something and it's costing you, $3 a copy, you can sell it at $6 a piece if you can sell all 1,000. If you don't think if you need to sell 500 to even break even, that's insane. And that's why most stores will charge, instead of like $6 for it, they might charge 15.
Yeah.
Because at 15, it's like, oh, okay, so I only need to sell 100 copies to break even. And then anything I sell beyond that is going to be money in the bank. Like, that's kind of how it works. Also, I think I got that wrong. It should be 200 copies to break even. But yeah, Batman Hush 2, we'll see. We're doing FOCs this week. I'll take a look at it and see what the sales look like, what the pre-orders look like. I don't recall people coming and asking about it or emailing about it or anything. I don't recall approving a ton of pre-orders for it.
Doing the orders this week for April books, which would be part 2.
Sure, 159.
Our subscription numbers have not jumped up at all for it.
I think there's a few people who probably dropped it because they don't care about this and they were just reading the Zdarsky run. And they've probably been replaced by a few people who weren't reading the Zdarsky run that will read the Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee thing. But it's an idea that's kind of very old, and it's 20 years since Hush 1 came out. And I'm very skeptical about the idea of this being something that moves the needle in the industry, that this being some sort of savior for stores. I just don't think these are the creators that are going to do that in 2025.
However, we would love to be wrong.
Sure, I'm going to order high-ish on 158, probably not 608 copies.
I also assume that we're probably going to cover, or carry, I should say, maybe 5 covers.
Yeah, like there's the connecting variants and...
Yeah, but with 4 different connecting variants, I don't want to carry them all.
No, I would carry like the 2 Jim Lee ones, which I gotta look at this. I can't tell if this is 2 different connecting lines or one book with 2 different connecting covers in the first month.
That one connecting one is hero themed and one is villain themed.
I thought so too, but I think these go together.
Do they really?
Yeah, like the first 2 panels.
So what is it, a 12-part cover?
Well, maybe the Jim Lee ones are just 2-part connecting.
Oh, okay.
Like what would normally be a gatefold.
I see.
Not
all the way through the whole.
But the Delota one, I think, is a full run, which I got to tell you, I've really stopped ordering those.
Yeah.
Because you're assuming that people are going to be picking it up every single month, and if you start guessing wrong, you are stuck with a lot of random covers that don't make any sense.
Yeah, no one wants to buy a third part of a cover when they didn't buy the connecting 1 and 2.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll do
They will if it's the only one we have left.
We'll obviously do the main cover. I'll do the 2-part connecting Jim Lee covers. A ton of the courtside variant by Tony Daniel, where Batman's playing basketball. I mean, obviously, it's the one everyone's going to want.
Okay.
I was kidding about that one.
I did not get that right away, obviously. No. I'm like, why? Is he in a Bulls uniform? Is that a thing?
And then maybe the Campbell one or the Mora one. I got to see what gets more pre-orders.
I'm surprised there's no hidden gem like Jim Aparo ones or
they don't do hidden gem.
A Michael Turner cover.
It's a different company. So yeah, that Hush 2.
Sign me up for the Murphy Anderson Batman cover, please.
I will, absolutely.
It's now time to thank our Patreon supporters, including our annual patrons, Usi Arun Singh, Becca Hilburn and Joseph Coco, Bren Helt, Dal's mom Diane Bush, President of the Brian Garside Fan Club, Django Borin. Jose and Genevieve Villagomez. Josh Crowley of Westfield Comics. Our bestest wrestling watching pal, Michael Lee. Michael Romanenko. Severio the Cat. Our patrons who have created their own tier, Andrew, Drew Troy Aaliyah, Chris Burton, Claudine Neville. Our other generous patrons from the Say My Name pledge level, Ben-Hur Benedict Calaguas, Manage Comics Own, Brian Garside, Christopher Haith of Crooked Dog Comics, Drew Triner and Ashley Edwards, Gareth from Monkey Rocks Comics, my brother George Brower, Heidi D, Holly Aitchison, Jacob Sorelli of Kamikaze, Josh Trigg, Mark Hammond of Oh Yeah Comics, Margie, Keith, Logan, and Malcolm Springham, Matt Armstrong, Mitchell Davies of All-Star Comics in Melbourne, Australia, Morgan Kaiju Perry, Nicholas Fenner, my longtime pal Robert Burns, Ron Payne, Sean Bowers, Tad Eggleston and Johnny Williams, Thomas Nagovin of Century Guild, Walt Grogan, Walt's Comic Shop from Berlin, Germany. And if you want to hear your name thanked on this very podcast once a month, head over to patreon.com/challengers and pledge at the $5 Say My Name level. And a big thank you to all our other patrons at the various other pledge levels.
So anyway, getting back to
No, regular Batman.
ComicsPRO was over the weekend.
Yeah. I was going to say, I thought we were done with that, but there was still actual news.
We never talked about it.
Well, I mean, we talked about what I wanted to talk about it.
So we talked about the Thursday announcements, which I think were very slim.
Don't feel left out. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, whatever news I would want, whatever information I would want, I think I got. And whatever I didn't get yet will eventually be relayed to me through the universe.
I didn't tell you, we got several personal messages from people about how we need to be there and how we missed out.
If those people could listen to this podcast, they would stop asking us to do that because you don't want us there. Listen to what we just said.
And then there were other people I talked to who only were there remotely, including someone from HarperCollins who reached out and said, I really was looking forward to going to Cake this year to swing by and hang out with you guys, but that's the same weekend as ALA.
Oh.
So we will not see Gina Gagliano this year.
Oh, that's a shame.
But we got messages from Esther Kim.
That's great.
Danny Ward from Ghost Machine.
Yeah, not to give a different version of what we just talked about, I think we would have fun there.
Yeah, for sure.
Because of a lot of that social stuff and a lot of the chance to see people who we don't normally get to see. And honestly, some of it's to have the nighttime relaxation of hanging out with folks and having dinner and stuff.
It's not relaxing. This stuff is so on the go. So
I guess, I just think of it as it's not, you're not in a retail setting. You're not in the store, whatever. It's fun to hang out with people. And it's hard to do that on a convention floor, in a conference room, at your store, whatever. So that would be fun. And I could see myself coming away from ComicsPRO feeling that was fun to do and that was valuable for that. But I wouldn't say it would necessarily be valuable for my business. It would just be valuable for me as a human being. And
which is valid. And validable. Instead of valuable.
There's other ways for me to, recharge that part of my brain without going to a retailer conference. So let's see if we can go through and find out what else was announced. I don't know if we talked about the Chip Zdarsky, Valerio Schiti relaunched Captain America that I thought had been announced on Thursday.
Yeah, that was one of the only things we talked about.
Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez are relaunching Batman as an ongoing series, like Patrick mentioned. Issue 1 will be coming out after Hatouche
in September.
Ends. And
excited for that. I think it'll do well for people.
It looks great. I really love that this is the third relaunch that Jorge Jimenez has been the Batman artist for.
It's only the third Batman relaunch.
Well, I mean...
You mean creative team change?
Creative team change, I guess I should say, yes.
From James Tynion to Chip Zdarsky to Matt Fraction.
Yeah. That they keep bringing on a new writer, and they kind of make it it's a brand new start. And it's same artist, he's great. And, look, if there's one definitive Batman artist for the last decade, it's maybe Jorge Jimenez.
Sure.
It maybe is.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. He's very good at it. They're going to be slightly changing the costume and playing up some of the colors a bit more.
So, did you read the Hush preview?
No, the black and white one?
Yeah.
Not yet. I meant to do a lot of previews before we recorded, but then my day schedule was a little different, and I just was like, next time.
They get him out of his current costume and put him in a throwback costume right away. I think because it's the costume Ghibli wanted to draw, but at least there's storyline reasons for it.
Sure.
And
it's because his regular costumes all have malware in them, and he has to go to something a lot more analog.
I thought you didn't read it.
I'm talking about Iron Man.
I know. I was also joking. That wasn't it.
Okay.
That's not it at all.
I thought it'd be really funny if Jeff Loeb was like, I got a great idea, and Spencer Ackerman's like, yeah, me too.
Oh, no, I will tell you why, though.
Sure.
Because it happens really early in the issue.
Uh-huh.
Fish eat it.
Okay. That'll happen. I gotta see if I can find it. I want to say a thing that Fraction had talked about. Yeah, so they're going to be telling a series of self-contained stories when their run starts in September. Every issue could be a new adventure, a new style, and a new challenge for the creative team to put in front of Batman, which is kind of fun. I like the idea of, instead of immediately launching into like a 6-part story or like a massive 2-year thing, to kind of do that in the background, but let each issue be like, I don't know, he fights Killer Croc. Like, honestly, that was what made Hush fun, was like you had this evolving story, but it was like, I don't know, this time Poison Ivy's in it. Let's do that. They showed off some preview pages, which, unlike huh-toosh, fully colored. So that's good. I think it looks great. I think that book is going to be a lot of fun. Fraction's very up and down for me as a writer. I think he's great at the start and kind of loses it midway to near the end. And then the ending always just feels like he has one foot out the door.
It just feels like a stop.
It just feels like he ran out of gas and he realized it way too late.
But so do you think huh-thoosh will be a thing?
I hope so. But Fraction in the beginning is always great. Like the first 6 issues of any Fraction book are the best that book ever is. So I would highly recommend people jump onto this thing when it restarts in September. The other announcements
at the, I'm assuming, midnight launch party.
Yeah, it'll be at 6:09 p.m. on Thursday.
No, it has to be 12:01 because number 1.
1 in the morning, 1 a.m. Obviously, there's a Superman movie coming out this summer. The teaser trailer's already been released. It healed some people. So DC announced a bunch of different Superman stuff to go along with that. Crypto's going to be getting a miniseries by Ryan North and Nortinger's own Mike Norton.
Yes.
Very excited about that. Sophie Campbell, in the best news I heard over ComicsPRO, is going to be writing and drawing in the new Supergirl ongoing series. Sophie Campbell, one of my favorite artists in comics working today. Really hope she'd be doing the Absolute Wonder Woman art, but getting her to write and draw a Supergirl series is a very good consolation prize for this guy.
Maybe there's a fill-in on the way from her for Wonder Woman. You never know.
I mean, probably not at this point. She's got her own book to write and draw.
Yeah, but it's only a miniseries.
No, ongoing series.
Supergirl?
Supergirl ongoing series. I'm reading it right here.
Oh, huh. I thought it was miniseries.
What I think they'll probably end up doing, based on how Sophie approached Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is she will write and draw an opening arc. Then she will write the series going forward and maybe draw 1 or 2 minor arcs going forward.
I say Lila Del Duca takes over the book.
Okay, there's a lot of artists that I think would be really fun on that. And not to give a little parenthetical, but I really appreciate how DC seems to be putting the money into their artists in a way that I wish Marvel was. A lot of the names announced to miniseries and ongoing series are things where it's like, oh, this is a great artist who hasn't really done stuff for Marvel because Marvel doesn't want to pay artists anymore, really. They'd rather just get, 7 no-name people from overseas than pay anybody who you would know from a book. Mark Waid and Skylar Patridge are going to be doing Superboy stories in Action Comics.
Yeah, I like that Action Comics now will have an identity now that the Superman Superstars is over after the G. Willow Wilson run. Mm-hmm. And it'll be Mark Waid as the regular writer, but doing Superboy stories.
I'm going to need you, Patrick, to give me a little bit of context for this because you had brought it up before, and I don't know that I'm interested in it a whole lot.
Okay.
IDW is going to be doing an all-new shared universe of Godzilla comics.
Yes. So Godzilla is super hot right now. Let's talk briefly about Godzilla vs. America Chicago #1.
Yes.
Which, when it was first announced, we did think about doing an exclusive cover, but for reasons we talked about earlier in this episode, we didn't do it.
Yeah. In fact, specifically, it's that when you do a exclusive cover with IDW for a licensed book, the minimums are significantly higher.
Yeah. And
again, like Patrick mentioned, the cover price is $8. So the unit cost is also higher. than if we were to do this on like a $4 comic book.
We probably would have gotten a Mike Norton cover though. I'm just saying, since Seeley and
Interesting.
Brown were already.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So it's just they're unconnected, is I believe.
The Verse Americas?
No,
the shared universe.
The shared universe. Like,
yeah,
let's say
they're
that
different
Godzilla
places.
already has a whole universe within IDW with last week's Godzilla Heist.
Mm-hmm.
What's the cover to the IDW catalog this month? Godzilla Space Force. Godzilla vs. Aliens, something like that.
Yeah, some Godzilla retro
Yeah.
alien thing.
Not like Xenomorphs.
Right.
But so they announced 3 major books, which is the ongoing Godzilla series written by Tim Seeley.
Yep, just called Godzilla, launching
Yep.
in July.
There is I don't
Godzilla
remember.
Escape the Dead Zone by
Yeah.
Ethan S. Parker and Griffin Sheridan with art by Pablo Tunica.
Which those are the guys that did Kill Your Darlings.
This is a post-apocalyptic story.
Yep. And then there's Spaceship Godzilla?
Starship Godzilla.
Starship Godzilla. I like the idea of Godzilla being hollowed out and becoming a spaceship for a dying, like people on a dying planet looking for a new habitat. I'm making that up. I don't know what it's about.
No, it looks like the Starship Godzilla is basically flying around in Mechagodzilla to alien planets where like all of the alien monsters that would come to Earth to fight Godzilla, this is going to those planets and finding out what the deal is.
So I think this is IDW's way of saying, even though it's a whole different behind-the-scenes crew,
Right.
rather than just do a series of Godzilla miniseries, let's do the IDW Transformers universe.
Yeah.
For Godzilla.
Let's build specific comics mythology for this.
And look,
that they can spin off into different directions.
So far, we've ordered just about 200 copies of Godzilla vs. Chicago.
Yeah, around there.
And one of Dal's favorite things yesterday was the guy who came in wanting to buy a giant stack of each cover.
Yeah, 7 of each.
And we have a rule of 2 copies of any book for the first week.
Yeah.
Unless you pre-order, then you can pre-order
Right.
thousands of copies if you wanted.
And then when we mentioned the pre-orders, he was like, well, can I pre-order this? As in the comic that had just come out was on the shelves. And it's like, no, that would just be a regular order.
Like, I get it that people that are coming in who don't shop with comics regularly don't understand the way publishing works today or specifically our rules. But when we tell you our rules,
Yeah.
we are not going to make exceptions for you because you are not somebody who has proven any brand loyalty to us before.
But even then, it's like, there's no one I'm going to let buy 14 copies because
but I mean, there's somebody you might let buy a third copy.
Yeah, there's a justification we give people, and it's not just like we have some arbitrary rule. The rule specifically, and what we tell people when they try to do this is, we want to make sure there's enough for everybody. If this guy buys 14 copies, that's 6 to 12 people that won't get a chance to get anything.
Yeah.
So no, I don't want to do that. It's the same amount of money I make, but I would rather serve 6 to 12 more people.
And had this guy bought all his 14 copies, we would have sold out yesterday.
Oh yeah, way before closing day.
Because what we had done is we staggered our Godzilla orders. So we had more coming in today and then more coming in like in a week or so.
Hopefully, probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that was IDW's announcements. Marvel announced some stuff later in the ComicsPRO. Specifically, they announced Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion. This is going to be by Dennis Camp and Cody Ziegler. Art by Jonas Scharf.
I did not like that cover, man.
No, it's not great.
I did not like that cover.
I got to see if the cover is even by. Is this
So it's
Sarah
basically
Pichelli?
Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man
Sarah Pichelli.
being brought back to
This is sort of
an Ultimate Universe.
paying off some of the stuff from Ultimate Invasion, where the maker gave Miles a chance to go back, and Miles didn't. And now this is Miles' sister going to the Ultimate Universe, and then Miles having to go after her.
Yeah.
So classic Miles Morales, teaming up with the all-new Ultimate Universe. I think it'll do fine. Ultimates does really well. Ultimate Spider-Man does really well, even if this isn't really part of that. The Miles Morales comic does about half to a third of that.
Yeah.
So we'll see what audience this appeals most to.
And once again, I don't like his current costume. He's had too many costume changes, and they always go back to the old one, which I find better.
Yeah, I think this one's fine. It's okay. It looks kind of generic.
At least it's not a turtleneck.
I like the turtleneck.
See your Miles Morales turtleneck action figure.
I honestly thought about getting it.
Did you?
I genuinely do like that costume. When I play Spider-Man 2 and I play as Miles, that's the costume I use. I like that costume. Ghost Machine announced 2 new books. First Ghost by Brad Meltzer, Jeff Johns, and Chicago's own Gene Ha, plus a Hyde Street spinoff called Sisterhood. I don't read any of the Ghost Machine books, so I don't really need to get into that.
I'm not surprised you even mentioned it.
I'm just going down the list. Speaking of, I think we were talking about Jeff the Landshark. Jeff the Landshark gets his own mini-series.
Not to be confused with the Jeff Week special that is up for order now.
Yes.
For your subscriptions or your managed comics account if you're a Challenger subscriber.
Unlike the It's Jeff comics that have been collections of the digital material and the Venom War It's Jeff one-shot, which was an all-new original comic that was a one-shot tying into the Venom War event, this is a new Jeff the Landshark miniseries comic form written by Kelly Thompson, art by Toki Takoro, with
who does already some other Rivals art and is a good substitute for Gurihiro.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of people that have done Jeff stuff over the years that I will always prefer Gurihiro, but I recognize that they can't do everything. They are terrifically overbooked, as we can speak to. And
as we will not speak to.
No, I wasn't going to go into it. But like now Fuji had done some fill-in stuff during season 2 of It's Jeff because Gurihiro was busy, and those strips look great. So Toki Takoro is going to be good on this. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's Kelly Thompson. I'm glad that there is a new Jeff story that can come about because of all of the, Jeff enthusiasm that Rivals has had. It's a 5-issue miniseries. I believe it's starting in June 4th. It looks great. Marvel announced more of their Marvel Premiere Collection books. Wolverine Old Man Logan, Civil War, and the Matt Fraction, David Aja Hawkeye stuff.
It's weird to me that they only announced 3 for, I think, the rest of the year.
Well, they've got, I think, another 2 or 3 that haven't come out yet. Like the Hickman FF stuff and something else that I don't think is shipped yet.
Daredevil Born Again? That's
right, yeah. Daredevil Born Again and Black Panther are the ones that came out so far, I think.
What about Black Panther? Did that come out yet?
It did. Marvel is doing a new Bring on the Bad Guys
Old Man Logan
series of one-shots.
That's the other one, right?
And it looks like yet another thing that could be a miniseries, but Marvel's just making it a series of one-shots, which is the thing I hate the most in the industry. I like the giant size events that
they're doing for
Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing are doing, where they're doing 5 different giant size one-shots that are a sequential Ms. Marvel story. But each of them
to celebrate Giant Size X-Men #1. Don't forget that part.
It's Giant Size X-Men #1, then it's Giant Size Dark Phoenix Saga, then it's Giant Size Age of Apocalypse, then it's Giant Size House of M, then it's Giant Size X-Men 2.
Because
why could this not have been Giant Size X-Men 1 through 5 with a dumb little subtitle so I can actually subscribe people to it and they can get all 5 parts of your stupid story? Because when they buy Giant Size House of M and they haven't bought the 2 parts before it or they know about the 2 parts after it, this thing's not going to make any sense.
I'm sorry.
God damn it.
What anniversary is it? Is this for Giant Size X-Men #1?
5-0.
Okay, so, and what anniversary is it for Dark Phoenix Saga or for Age of Apocalypse or any of the other ones?
It's nothing.
Nowhere near 50.
Yeah.
Why are they, why?
They're just picking events.
No, why?
I would have also done Giant Size Mutant Massacre instead, you're right.
That's fair.
But the biggest, well, let's skip ahead.
What's the big Bastion crossover?
Zero Tolerance.
Yeah, Giant Size Zero Tolerance.
There you go. I can't be into that. Get Joe Kelly back.
He's back. He's writing Weapon X-Men.
That's true. No, it's Joe Casey.
What?
Joe Casey's writing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Joe Kelly's writing Raising Spider-Man.
Okay. I knew he was back doing something.
Greg Pak.
I will never get them straight, for the record.
Greg Pak and Sumit Kumar are doing a Death of the Silver Surfer miniseries this summer.
Most likely getting rid of Norrin Rad and making it so Shalabal can be the Silver Surfer, like
for a minute, tie into a movie, because that's the only Marvel publishing plan at this point is what thing is the MCU doing that we can draft off of?
Yeah.
Which, if there's a thing I hate more than a series of one-shots that are an actual miniseries, it is how Marvel's publishing is so bereft of ideas that everything is just either what's going to be a movie next year or what is the movie from 2 months ago. Like, there's literally no reason to do a Red Hulk series. There's no demand for a Red Hulk series. The creative team we put on it is not a creative team that anyone's super excited about. No offense to the creators involved.
Yeah, Dow. No one wants Red Hulk. They all want Hell Hulk.
And yet we're getting a Red Hulk series because Marvel Publishing is like, well, Red Hulk's in a movie. Like, that explains everything. And it's like, but there's no audience for this stuff. And worse, it's such a diminishing resource because what you should be doing is creating the stories that will be the next Red Hulk or the next Marvel movie.
But this isn't to be confused with the Red Hulk who was launched who was part of the Sam Wilson Captain America comic book launch. That's a different Red Hulk.
Yeah, it's a completely different Red Hulk. Because they just were like, he's got to fight a Red Hulk, but we don't have another one, so this guy's a Red Hulk now. If you look at superhero publishing at Marvel and DC over the last, let's just limit it to like 6 months. The biggest hits both of those companies have are Absolute and Ultimate. Because those are books that are taking properties that you like, characters that you're aware of, and taking chances with them and doing something different. Why is that not a huge fucking signal to both those companies? And I'm not even mad at DC because DC is doing that with other things. Superman's doing different stuff. They're not like Supergirl as a comic book. If that were being published by Marvel, it would absolutely just be Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow 2 by a completely different creative team, because that's what the movie's going to be. So they have to have their sequential ongoing comic book that's released around the time of the film has to look exactly like the movie that's coming out. That's how Marvel works. That's how their brains work. At DC, they went, we already have that as a collection. That is already a trade paperback that you can read and enjoy and we can sell to you. Let's make the comic just something good, that if you like this character from how she was in this movie, let's do something where you go to the shops and you're like, oh, Supergirl #1. And I don't know this story yet because I didn't just see it in a goddamn movie.
First of all, I think you didn't hear what I just said. Hell Hulk.
I did.
New, complete original concept.
Like a Helverine, but he's a Hulk.
And also, the new Spider-Girl series. Spinning out of the new Spider-Boy series. How is that not new and original?
Mm-hmm.
And groundbreaking? Mm-hmm. Get your shovel and your pickaxe. We are breaking some ground.
So, yeah, that's all of Marvel's announcements to me are very much, here's a new Thunderbolts thing because there's a Thunderbolts movie coming out this summer. No one asked for this. No one wants this. No one really cares. It'll sell a minimum amount of copies because there's a minimum amount of people who will read almost anything Marvel puts out.
Second week of March, 2 of the graphic novels that are out are Thunderbolts collections.
Uh-huh.
Thunderbolts, the saga of
Yelena Belova.
The Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. The saga of Yelena Belova.
Yep. Yelena Belova, who historically has not really been much of a Thunderbolt. So, it'll mostly be for other stuff. Winter Soldier's been a Thunderbolt, I think, at least once before this, so maybe they'll include the last Kelly and Lansing series.
You mean Revolution?
I want both of these publishers doing stuff that feels like it matters as a comic book. Like, it's not just licensed comics. Like, it's not just, here's an FF thing that looks just like the FF movie or whatever. Like, I like One World Under Doom, and I think it's a solid book, but I kind of hate that it exists just because it's like, well, we got to do a bunch of Doom stuff now. Like, could you just do a good story? Could you not? Does it have to be something that feels so in lockstep with the Marvel Studios division? Marvel Studios, who's not looking at the comics as the way they have to do their movies. They're picking and choosing whatever they want. And they're changing the shit they don't think works. Yet Marvel Comics just feels like it has to answer to everything Marvel Studios does. And I think the sales reflect that. And like Marvel sales, we'll never know what they are. Marvel will tell you that every retailer gets it wrong when they talk about their sales, but they'll also never really provide anything beyond you're getting it wrong. So we'll never know.
Sure.
But how it looks from the inside from stores is that Marvel sales are bad for most of their main books, but propped up by variant covers. You release, 15 covers for Amazing Spider-Man #1, and it's going to look like Amazing Spider-Man. Sales are great. But when you look at Amazing Spider-Man issue 3 numbers, cover A, you're probably not going to see anything that great. Which is maybe why one of the biggest announcements of ComicsPRO 2025 was a joint announcement by C.B. Cebulski and Marie Javins, the editors-in-chiefs of DC and Marvel, collectively announcing that they'll be issuing 2 one-shots coming out by the end of the year, DC Marvel and Marvel DC.
Now, they already know what the subject matter is going to be, but they've not announced it, nor creative teams?
No, although you can bet that Jonathan Hickman's going to be on at least one of them.
I don't know. He's busy with Incursion.
You don't think they're going to want to put...
Wait,
Hickman...
is it Incursion? What is his? Incursion's the Spider-Man one.
Well, it's Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion, but he's not writing that.
Right, but he's doing his Marvel crossover for the spring.
I don't remember hearing about this.
Yeah, what is it called? I can't remember.
I don't know anything about this.
You just look it up. Google Jonathan Hickman Marvel 2025 spring or whatever.
I feel like I would know if he was doing
it's
the
his
book.
big event book.
We'd already be ordering it.
No, it's not. It hasn't been listed yet, but it is.
I
definitely...
mean, we're ordering out through May.
No, we're ordering through. Well, no, April. We're ordering March, April, May. Oh, May. It's not in the catalog yet, though, so probably for June.
Imperial?
Yeah, that's the one.
Imperial is coming to comics in 2025.
It's his big, like, cosmic
Nature
crossover
abhors a vacuum. Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's everything that he was setting up in his New Mutants run.
Okay.
And what he was trying to build with
Gods?
Cannonball and Sunspot.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah, so Marvel DC to me feels like a situation where DC has wanted this for a long time and Marvel's been like, we don't need it. And this was the year Marvel's like, we really need it. Like, this feels more desperate on Marvel's part than DC's part. Patrick, do you think Marvel DC is going to do well?
When I was working...
I like that this book ends our Hush discussion.
When I was working downtown and they announced JLA Avengers.
Or Jill Avengers. huh-toosh.
Then what are the other two issues? Avengers-la?
Yeah, I mean, that's Marvel's fault. They screwed it up.
Because it was JLA Avengers for 2 and Avengers JLA for 2.
Like it was Marvel versus DC and DC versus Marvel, depending on who's publishing it.
Yes. So, and this is when I was downtown. So downtown was a different beast. But I ordered for number 1, 1,000 copies.
Which is not a cheap book. That was a square-bound edition.
Yeah. It was probably $5 at the time.
Sure.
And I remember being in San Diego at not at a retail dinner, at a dinner with retailers the Sunday night after the show was over. And that book had just been announced. We just done orders. And I said that I was ordering 1,000 and like at the table, jaws dropped.
Sure. I mean, even when things were better or the market was healthier or books would sell higher, 1,000 copies is 1,000 copies. That is not a small number ever.
Right. Sure.
But you're planning on selling that to 1,000 people. And most stores do not have 1,000 people who will buy any one comic book.
So let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
With what you know now,
yes,
and only 2 covers, and no exclusive covers.
Which is hilarious. It's like saying it's also going to be hand delivered by a hippogriff. Sure, why not?
No. I'm not. Let me finish.
Okay.
With what you know now, not doing an exclusive cover,
right,
and knowing there were only 2 covers,
right,
what would you have initial ordered for Godzilla vs. Chicago?
500 copies.
Right. I think you just answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Marvel DC, it really depends, to me at least, on the creative teams. Like, if Marvel cheaps out on this like they do a lot, I would probably...
I don't think it matters because it's a one-shot.
Yeah,
and I think that anybody who's down for one is down for both.
Right.
And I don't think you could have...
Like, I'm not saying I would cut it in half or whatever if it was like, I'm going to be an asshole about this. Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing and like...
Sure. I was going to say...
Netho Diaz. I would probably be like, that sucks and I don't want to read it.
You can have Tom King and Bilquis Evely on the DC Marvel side.
Yeah.
And then...
Kelly Jackson Lansing.
Yeah, and that's his on the Marvel side. And you should still order the same amount.
Yeah, I'm still going to sell 90% of the DC one for Marvel. Like, it's still going to sell really well.
What if the Marvel one comes out first?
That would be a shame.
Do you think that would make people go, "Oh, I don't want the DC one"? If
we're both old.
Like,
you remember Deathmate? You get this the Wildstorm issue, and it's like, oh man, Jim Lee and whoever else, and then you get like the second Valiant one, and it's like, oh god.
Right.
Yeah.
You also know these are going to be like $9 books.
Oh my god, they're not going to be cheap.
With more covers than Batman #1.
Holy god.
I'm sorry, huh-toosh. huh-toosh Part 1. I don't think Batman #1 will have as many covers as huh-toosh.
I don't think anything on this from Marvel or DC will have as many covers as huh-toosh Part 1. 20 covers, Patrick. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would, without knowing anything about the creative teams and without knowing what sales incentives they're offering, which I assume would be probably not a lot. I don't know that, like, I was hoping for, when Batman Spawn was coming out, that they would do something to entice us to order more copies, and they were just like, the enticement is Batman Spawn.
By Todd McFarlane.
Yeah, and Greg Capullo. Like, we did that job. Now you order it. And I feel like that's what Marvel DC is going to be. I think there's going to be a million incentive covers, but I don't think DC is going to do bundles. and Marvel never does shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not going to get returnability. You're not going to get overships. You're not going to get increased discounts. You're not going to get anything because it's Marvel DC, and that's it.
Window banners for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Again,
One,
like we do
maybe
with
two.
Batman Spawn, I think you got to do a lot of outreach, and that's the thing that I would hope they would do promotionally early enough in the process, is making the world aware that there is a Marvel DC crossover happening. Because I don't need people to know about that. Like Godzilla Chicago, the news hit for most people 4 days before the book came
Yeah.
out, which is like in the release cycle of things, way too late. We're lucky that there were copies still in the pipeline for us to be able to order more. But for something like Marvel DC, if people start adding this or trying to add this or reserve it the week the book comes out, it's like, I can't accommodate that. Like, I needed that information a month ago.
Right. What if, depending on the level of covers available, what if we do like a special cover bundle? Like, hey,
I consider that. Sure.
order every cover, but if they won't do like a 1 in 10 variant. But
No,
like,
not for that.
But
no.
if they did and there were 10 covers, like you get the 1 in 10 as well.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like if they do,
If they do 25 variant covers, you would throw in the 1 in 25?
yes, but I don't want to do a bundle for 25 covers.
I would consider it.
Yeah.
Well, but this is the thing. Like, would you offer it at a reduced price, or would you just throw the 1 in 25 in?
I mean,
because I think that's all I'd be willing to do is like, if you order the bundle, you're paying cover price, but we will throw in the 1 in 25 variant for free. That's the discount. That's interesting. I'd maybe do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you would need 25 covers.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean,
per
one shot, which I don't think either company is going to do less covers than the other. They each tend to do a lot of variant covers.
Oh man, what if this is the, I have an idea. What if, okay, Mitchell, this is for you. What if the third rubber match international sales battle was these 2 books, but we flip a coin to see who gets which book?
Interesting. It's interesting.
So we're not selling 1-to-1.
Right.
It's apple to orange, or
Sure.
I don't know,
That's
orange to
interesting.
tangerine.
It's really interesting.
Satsuma?
I don't know
Blood
fruits
orange?
or vegetables.
Fair.
Actually, I do know that they were used in Kamen Rider Gun. I know what a blood orange is.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, we have to have a fair flip to see who gets which book.
You'd have to do like a video call or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is we're doing this live. Call it in the air.
You know what? I would trust them to do it.
You would trust them to flip the coin?
Yeah.
Okay.
They should not trust me to flip the coin.
I definitely wouldn't trust them. Australians all criminals.
Yeah, but everything goes the other way.
Coriolis effect.
So,
That's right. So then if you called tails, would it be heads? Does that work? I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I'll pitch that to him and see what he thinks.
It's interesting.
Because like I think that's an even playing field.
I mean, I think they still have a huge advantage on being a significantly bigger store than us and doing way higher volume.
Okay, but what about this?
They have to be closed for half the week.
No. What if we flip the coin and we each have our own book, but we can't tell our customers which one we have?
Oh.
So we could push it one in the store.
Right. But you couldn't say we're in this battle and you got to buy DC Marvel.
Right.
Interesting. I think that's a way to do it.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it. Which I still would give them the edge, but whatever. It would be a contest. It would be a battle.
Sure.
No shame in
That's the whole point.
So
International sales
beat,
battle.
You know?
And don't forget, we beat them for the first time and they cheated on the second one.
Yeah,
So
that's true. I'll never forget. Again, criminals. It's a whole island of criminals.
Were you done with your ComicsPRO announcements? You saved the best for last?
I think so, yeah. I'm sure there was stuff that trickled out later, but I think that was the big stuff. I remember us both kind of being on our computers Friday night when this was all going down and messaging each other to be like, whatever news got dropped or whatever got announced someplace else.
I think I was at work when you told me about the Marvel DC ones.
I think so. I think you were, because it was at the panel that I don't think you could watch.
Yeah. Yeah, because DC didn't have their presentations were not public. I signed up for another call tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's at 2:00 and I really don't know if I'll remember it. But it's the Matthew Rosenberg, Tyler Boss double.
Oh, cool. Double feature.
Yeah.
You'll do bad things, and we're taking you all down with us.
Yeah. Another W book for Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that one because he does such great reach out for retailers.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to kind of reciprocate.
Yeah. I think both those books are going to do well for us.
But it'll be on in the background. I won't be like riveted to it.
You're not going to be active in the chat?
Yeah, I will not set up a camera or anything. I think that they probably prefer it that way. I'm just going to take these other sections here that I plan to talk about and move them to a different day.
Let me see the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And once again, we'll keep this prop for next week.
It's still relevant.
Yeah, it is. It was going to lead into more of my personal frustrations with them for the week, but those won't go away at any point.
Nope.
So I don't have to worry about
not being frustrated.
Exactly. Yeah, that'll still be there. Validable. That's the title. Validable. There we have it. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.